Hello everybody, the Nameless Narcissist here once again. Simple man diagnosed with MPD, giving the facts of narcissistic personality disorder and things that go in my head. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Keep in mind, I am no clinician, so I can only speak to my own experiences and the studies that I read. You know, every time that I do my little intro, I'm like, man, I say that fucking fast. And now I'm like, I always try to either stretch it out so I get a few, so people aren't like, oh my god, you say that too fast. Or I try to like say as fast as I can to see if I can make a record. Next video I do, I'm just going to like fucking just see if I can do it under 10 seconds. Anyways, so something I find really interesting is some of these like social media things that try to describe narcissism, which I'm only like, they're always just wrong. And, like one of the ones I hate the most is like, oh, if you suspect you're a narcissist, you're not a narcissist. Okay, that's a way to make sure people don't get into therapy. I've heard a couple people say that their narcissist didn't go into therapy because like they hear that, right? And they consider they're a narcissist and they're like, well, if I'm questioning it, then I can't be a narcissist. What a damage, like I get it, like when you're in a relationship where you fucking are suffering very much because of like how crazy we are, it's like people sometimes need to hear that so that they basically don't gaslight themselves into feeling like they are the problem. Not to say that, I shouldn't say that they aren't the problem, that they're, I guess that to a certain degree, but I want to clarify, there's always two sides of a relationship. There's always growing to do no matter which side you are on, and there's enabling, and there's, you know, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but that's not the purpose of this video. But one of them that I see all the time is the narcissist prayer, right? And I'm always, and I always just kind of rolled my eyes at it because I always kind of felt like I didn't do it that much, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, everything except for like that didn't, you know what, I'm going to get into it anyway. But I thought it'd be interesting for me to go through it and basically explain what my thought process would be if I did something like that, or like if I do it or not. So Narcissist Prayer, for those of you that aren't familiar, is this poem that's basically like, oh, this is how narcissist gaslights and stuff like that. And it says, if that didn't happen, and if it did, it wasn't that bad, and if it did, that's not a big deal, and if it did, that's not my fault, and if it was, I didn't mean it, and if I did, or wait, and if it, okay, wait, that didn't happen, if it did, it wasn't that bad, and if it was, it's not a big deal, and if it is, that's not my fault, and if it was, I didn't mean it, and if I did, you deserved it. So basically, yeah, like describing like gaslighting and stuff like that, like how, oh, minimizing or denial, whatever. So yeah, let me go through this line by line. The first one is that didn't happen. I don't just blatantly deny things happened, like to your face, if like you were there for it, you know what I mean? I might, if I do something really shitty, I might lie to you, but not about like if you weren't there for it, right? I might lie, or I would lie back in the past, but like I would never to your face be like, no, that didn't happen. What I think people mistake for that is when a narcissist, in my mind, somebody will be like, oh, you did this and it hurt me, blah, blah, blah. And I'm trying to basically be like, no, that it didn't happen that way. You're getting my motivations completely wrong, right? No, I didn't do that. I did this and maybe you took it like this, but I meant to do this, right? It's reframing it. In our mind, we're setting the record straight. It's not that we're denying, and I can see how this would look like denial, right? Because when I'm basically saying, no, this didn't happen the way that you think it did, that sounds like I'm just denying it. But that's how I basically, but like, it's not just this blatant, in our minds, we're not consciously trying to be like, no, you're wrong, that didn't happen. What like happened like 2 seconds ago, right? We're trying to reframe it from our perspective, and that can look a lot like denial. Anyways, after that is, and if it did, it wasn't that bad. I have done this, but it's a similar vein, right? And I think all of these are going to be somewhat in a similar vein. But for this, it's like, you know, we lack emotional empathy, right? So we're going to think like, oh, and I guess that kind of goes along with the next one too. It's not a big deal. Because it's like, for us, we think you're overreacting. We genuinely think that. Don't get me wrong, like that's terrible to invalidate somebody's feelings like that, but we're genuinely like, how did that hurt you the way that it did? I didn't even mean to hurt you. Or it's like, oh, like, yeah, sure, that probably hurt you, but like, it's not that big, like, I don't get why you're so upset about it, right? I don't get why you're reacting like this when, like, one, it's over, two, it wasn't that big of a deal to begin with. Like, we genuinely believe that. We're not trying to basically be like, oh, like we're not trying to, like, gaslight and stuff like that. But I can see how it would look like that would be intentional, because it would feel so foreign to you that somebody could not be able to put themselves in your shoes like that. You gotta remember, the things that hurt us and the things that hurt you are going to be very different. Not very different, but like will hurt to varying degrees, right? A family member of mine dies, I'm not gonna feel anything, right? So it can be similar I always bring up this example because I find it so funny, is that this guy on Reddit, I was reading his, what's it called? I was reading like this post that he made about how he became self-aware, and something he said to his girlfriend was, "You're overreacting. I didn't even mean to hurt you that time." And her response was hilarious because it was very true. And she's like, "You asshole, I'm glad you phrased it like that, because I have never once tried to hurt you." And then he was like, "Wait, what?" Which makes sense, right? Most people don't act vindictively towards the people that they love. And it's sometimes hard for us to wrap our mind around. So like for me, if I didn't intend to hurt somebody, it's like, why are you making such a big deal out of this? I didn't mean to hurt you. Why are you trying to hang this over my head? Why are you trying to make me feel ashamed? Why are you trying to attack me? Anyways, but yeah, it wasn't that bad, not a big deal, same difference. And if it is, that's not my fault. Okay, like fucking similar, right? I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to hurt you. Why do you keep bringing this up? I don't get it. So it's not my fault that you're hurt. I didn't mean to hurt you. Because again, it feels like you're trying to attack us again, this isn't justified at all. Minimizing people's experiences is not okay. But it's hard for us to wrap our mind around that. And hell, maybe in that case, maybe it wasn't even our fault, really. Like, if it wasn't intentional, it's not like we tried to hurt you and stuff like that. So maybe it wasn't, it's how we're framing it in our mind, right? Because I can see how saying it's not my, I guess it goes on with the second. Why are like each two of these like the same thing? And if it was, I didn't mean it, is the one after that. Because it's like, that one actually might be a little bit different. But yeah, like how can it be my fault if I didn't intend to? And that's just a framing issue, right? Because ostensibly it is my there has to be a better wording for that, because when I say it's not my fault, that means I didn't mean to do it, right? It's hard, like I just think that phrasing puts something off in my narc brain that makes it like almost impossible for me to comprehend. Like, it's not my fault, but it's, I would say it's my responsibility to make it better, because even if it's unintentional, I did hurt somebody. I think that's it's my responsibility to try to take care of the person that I hurt, even if it was accidental. But saying that but if you said it's my fault, again, that feels like an attack. It feels like you're a bad person. You hurt me, and it's your fault. It's like, no, I didn't mean to. I didn't fucking mean to. Why are you attacking me? And I know, and like, again, I'm speaking to my narc brain. Don't take this as me trying to justify this crap, right? Yeah, and if it was, I didn't mean it. This one could be like super genuine. Remember, we're in the dramatic, erratic, and emotional cluster. We're fucking going off on rages all the time. And for me, it's like, so like I do get into these spaces where I'll rage out and say things I don't mean. Well, and it's the splitting, right? It's splitting. It's not so much that I don't mean, it doesn't have any, it might be true, but it doesn't have any it doesn't emotionally matter if I'm not splitting on you, right? Because like when I'm splitting, I can recognize the things I don't like about you and the things that are bad, but they don't matter. That's kind of like how I like somebody is if I ignore their faults. That's how I show love. Showing love is not recognizing faults, not recognizing flaws, or things that you might be insecure about and stuff like that. So once the splitting's over, I didn't mean it. In my mind, I didn't mean it, right? It's like, no, I didn't mean that. I was just angry, and how we rationalize splitting is like, I just didn't mean it in the moment, right? Another big one that I saw, because like once I was on the borderline level 1 subreddit, which is disappointing. I wish that was more supportive of people who love their borderline family members, but like need support about it, but whatever. That's not a thought, but like somebody was like, oh, the biggest gaslight is when they say that they meant it in the moment. Yeah, we did mean it in the moment. What do you mean? Do people not mean things in the moment? Or maybe I'm just misinterpreting what they're saying by that, but like, yeah, we might mean things in the moment. Then we may change your mind. Again, or splitting might happen. I may have just completely misinterpreted that. Somebody feel free to correct me if I have. And then the last one, my personal favorite, and then if I did, you deserved it. Shout out to Will Wood's song, by the way. He made a great song basically about narcissism that's titled that. And this one is the one that I'm going to have I'm not trying to justify any of these, but the hardest time explaining, because I try to indicate this one a lot, but again, it's like revenge feels so natural for us. Vindictiveness feels like justice. And I've said that to people's face before, I'm not gonna lie. Well, I didn't say the and if I did part, but it's like, yeah, I did that because you deserve it. You hurt me, so I'm gonna make you feel like how I felt, because you hurt me on purpose, because we forget that people can hurt us on accident. So we attack them, and getting revenge and getting justice. It's like, now you know how I feel. Now you know how I feel. And that feels like defending ourselves, right? We have this mindset of the world's nasty. If we don't defend ourselves, people will just keep hurting us. So we need to bite back harder. If I did, you deserved it. It's funny, because I think it's really funny, because when I first read this, I was like, that's bullshit. I don't do that shit, whatever. And now I read it now and I'm like, yeah, that's rough. I have done those things. Shit. I would never do it in succession like that, though, right? I always have just one. I would always have like one of those reasons. I would never be like, that didn't happen, but that didn't happen. And then if they kept pushing, okay, maybe it happened, but it wasn't that bad. I would never do shit like that. I would just stick to one, more or less. But still, I thought that was a little fun exercise right there, though. I'm a little out of it today. Sorry, this was kind of a bad video. Anyways, y'all have a good day. Take your fucking meds, please.